Okay, this is arrestafield bug report number 10. I'm having to do this over again because for some reason Quick didn't record or upload what I just did, so I'm having to do this over. It's kind of annoying. Anyway, this particular arrestafield bug report is really for Randy Kelton. This one's for you, Randy. I think you're going to be particularly interested in this because you're always on the issue of subject matter jurisdiction and the lack of it. And, well, you're always going to court and complaining that there's no complaint, there's no indictment, there's no information, and there's no warrant. So how do they get subject matter jurisdiction? Well, the problem is that it's really impossible to prove that something doesn't exist, even if it does not exist. Okay, but it's always possible to prove something does exist if it does exist. Okay, so you really need to find something that is much better to find something that does exist, okay, and take that and use it as evidence and put it in everybody's face, okay. Then to go to court and argue, well, there's not this and there's not that and there's not the other. All right, that's just your word. It's much better to have evidence of something that does exist. So what we need to do, in my opinion, is prove that something does exist, that they do have evidence, that they do have, or that they have assumed subject matter jurisdiction, okay? Then we can go argue that all this other stuff doesn't exist, okay? So that they have assumed subject matter jurisdiction. We know that they don't actually have that, but they have assumed it. So we need evidence that they have assumed it. Just the judge saying that isn't going to cut it, because you actually have to go to trial and listen and argue with the judge, and I don't like having to argue with the judge. And besides that, once you show up at a trial or in any hearing, and they've named you a defendant already, then you've walked right into a trap. You go and you sit behind the defendant's table. You've waived your right to complain about your being named as defendant. You've already waived your right to complain about subject matter jurisdiction or personal jurisdiction just by doing that. So the judge is going to just go ahead and move forward as if he's got it. And we all know that you can't. Well, we don't need to argue about the judge never did have subject matter jurisdiction. The point is, going to the trial, any kind of hearing, is pointless. Okay, because he's just going to assume it anyway. He's assumed it. Now let's go find the evidence that he's assumed it. All right, that the court has assumed. And I'm telling you where that evidence is. It is not just what's in the case file, it's the case file itself, okay? See, the manila folder that all the documents are in, that's your evidence, okay? Because on there, it's going to say something, it's going to have your name, and there's a tab there, and it's going to probably say name or defendant. All right. I wrote the words defendant O'Reilly on here. They're never going to actually give you this folder. They might give you copies of documents that are in the folder. Okay. But I don't think they're ever going to give you a copy of the folder itself. Maybe that's what you need to ask for. Go to the court and actually demand that they make a copy of the folder, the tab on the folder itself. You've probably never done that, never thought to do it. Okay, That's your evidence that you've been named as defendant, and they have to have subject matter and personal jurisdiction to do that. There's your evidence. It doesn't actually show up in on the ticket, because the ticket, the box there just says name. The cop wrote that in there, and it just says name. Okay, you don't know, on the ticket, you don't know if you're being called as a witness, as a defendant, or what you're being called as. And I don't think the officer has any authority to summon you to court anyway, and it doesn't matter because he doesn't sign the thing. You do. So it doesn't, you can't really go after the cop for this. So let's not even discuss the cop. The problem is, what's going on here is that the clerk's taking your name off your ticket, where you've not been named as defendant, and it types it into makes a file folder like this, puts your name on it. It might say defendant there, it might not. I don't know. But in the computer system, I'm betting that there's a box there they type your name into where it does say defendant. Okay? And that's how it shows up on the web, by the way. If you look up your case on the web, here in Virginia, okay, they do the same thing with all cases, traffic cases. All right, and they might do this with other, I don't know. But here, I'm going to cover up names to protect the innocent. Okay, but you're going to see here, this is a printout of, Virginia court case information online. And you will see the words defendant name as the title for one column. And in another column, it says status. And you will see that there are pending cases. All right. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe it says defendant name there near the top. Hopefully you got that. And over here, in one column, there's definitely 2 or 3 pending cases. All right? So, they named you as defendant before you saw anybody in court. The clerk did this. Okay? It's that simple. The clerk set you up. All right, it's not the officer, it's not really the judge, although the judge is ultimately responsible for whatever goes on in the court, but it's the clerk. All right, and there's your evidence. Your evidence shows up online, and I would try getting the actual copy of the folder itself. All right. They're probably not going to do it. They're not going to want to. But anyway, I checked with, looked online with Texas court cases, and they just use the word name at the top of their columns. Okay, here in Virginia, well, it depends upon how you look it up. If you look it up by hearing date, there'll be a column that says name at the top. But then if you pick out a name, somebody's got a hearing date on, say, whatever the date is. You pick out a name out of the name column there, and then you look it up, the case by name. Then you will get a table full of names, starting with the one you just picked, and at the top it will say defendant. Okay. So there's your evidence that your character has been defamed one line in public. Okay, you've been named defendant and without any due process. That's defamation of character under color of law, Title 18, Section 241 or 242 violation right there, crime. Don't even, and if you go to court, you can do that. You have the right to incriminate yourself if you want to, and you have the right not to incriminate yourself. Okay? You know, and in my opinion, you know, you show up in court knowing that you'd already been named defendant without due process. I think you waive your right to complain about that or do anything about it if you show up. Just my opinion, for whatever it's worth. No bar license here. Sorry, don't want one. Okay, I don't want to get bar grieved. Ha ha ha. So anyway, let's see. That's 10 minutes. I think I have a 15-minute limit, or this thing won't show up on YouTube. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of suggest a couple of things. Real quick, just been thinking about, you know, my experience and what I would have done differently if I had time to think about it, which I didn't because it was a total ambush. You ought to think about having a recording device and having it on, just turning it some sort of recording device on and having it on you. And don't have to think about it, just have it on. First thing in the morning, turn it on. Hopefully the thing will last all day. Okay, I didn't even have time to think about what I needed to do. They were on me so fast. So I kind of want to suggest, hey, you know, have a recording device on you and have it recording all the time. As soon as you leave the house in the morning, have that thing going. I think we got MP3 players nowadays that can probably record, you know, 8 or 10 hours. And at the end of the day, hey, you know, just erase it if you don't need it, and if you do need it, keep it. Anyway, and another thing is, I should have thought about this, but I didn't. You know, if you want to get witnesses, always go to, if something happens, you need a witness, go to somebody, you know, a clerk or somebody at the store that you're at, or just go to the nearest person that has a job at that particular location that you're at. Because it's going to be easier to find that person later. You know, just using the average person off the street as a witness, they're going to be hard to find later. So go to somebody before the cops show up. Go to somebody and use them as a witness, saying, hey, you know, this guy over here is committing a crime. You know, go to somebody, some store clerk or whatever, somebody that you can track down quickly and easily. An average person on the street can't do that. So anyway, you know, I already used up 13 minutes, and you know, I just want to say, Randy, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I learned a lot from you guys, and this idea, you know, I wouldn't have ever thought about this if I hadn't been listening to you guys all this time. So anyway, you know, I guess that's arrestafield bug report number 10, and maybe I'll see you on the radio later.